Hi guys, welcome to my second video on my new channel. New channel name, I should say. Thank you for the people who watched the first video. It got a few more views actually than I expected, and it's not even been on for longer than a day, so that's actually quite good. It's done slightly better than I expected, which is nice. Of course, I'm not about the numbers, but it's nice to see that some people did actually watch it. So thanks to those people. So today I'm just moving on, obviously, to the second video. So today, again, I didn't really know what to talk about, and I wasn't planning it overly well. So again, it was a bit of a spur of the moment topic for this video as well, but oh well. So today I thought I would do most judgmental to least judgmental out of all of the zodiac signs. And again, this is kind of subjective in my personal opinion, based on obviously people in my life who I have observed slightly, but again, nothing to take personally, and it's kind of more just a general trend rather than a specific trend for each sign in general. And it's just tendencies towards being more or less judgmental, respectively, not that they are those things at their core. So hopefully no one takes offense. Um, so basically, I have done a bit of a list for this video, actually, like I did in the last video, so that I could remember the order. The last video being, my favourite signs, from least to most, out of all the signs. Yeah, so for this one, the tendencies toward being judgmental or non-judgmental, in my personal opinion. So at number 12, coming in as the most judgmental of all of the signs, I touched on this in my first video when I offered up my reason as to why I don't really like the specific sign, and that is Virgo. I do find Virgo to be the most judgmental sign in the zodiac, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. Not all of them, definitely not all of them, but I think because they are very logical, they're ruled by Mercury, the Earth side of Mercury, so they are quite in their head. Of course, they are grounded, they are an Earth sign, but they are quite in their head. They're very logical, very analytical, and they tend to evaluate everything in their life. People, if they're your boss at work, they're going to be quite like by the book, not very innovative. They're going to be pretty traditional, and they sort of look at structures for everything. They like to structure everything. They like to make to-do lists. That's definitely something they love to do. Which is all well and good if it keeps them, organized and on track with whatever they need to do in their life and keeps them in track of their responsibilities. Um, but I do find because they tend to filter everything through their rational minds and they tend to analyze everything, including other people and their personality themselves as well, they do tend to be very judgmental. So they are on my list as the most judgmental zodiac sign overall. And I will say before I carry on that there is a tendency that the earth element signs, that is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, tend to be the ones who are also leaning more toward the judgmental side of things. And I think it's just because they're pragmatic, down to earth, grounded. They do all, to an extent, filter things through their logical mind. And I think that could be a reason why they all kind of lean toward being more judgmental than not. Just thought I'd put that out there. And it might just be because they are earth signs. They see the world, a clearer perception of the world, the real world that is, than other people do who aren't earth signs. So maybe they are right and we're all wrong. Like, we never know. Maybe they just see the world exactly for what it is, and we can learn from them in terms of their common sense. So number 11 on my list, the second most judgmental sign in my opinion, is Taurus actually, and I feel like because Taurus is the Earth side of Venus, I feel like Taurus is quite they're not superficial as much as Libra, which is obviously the air side of Venus, but they do still care a lot about external appearances more than who you are truly on the inside at your core. They do still care more about the external appearance and can be quite shallow and vain in that sense. Not half as bad as Libra, and that's probably just because they're an earth sign, so of course they're more grounded and more sort of like common sense than the Libra, but they can still be a bit like that. And I think they judge someone's physical appearance as soon as they meet them quite harshly. And they do kind of filter, do I want to speak to this person? Do they look well groomed? Do they look attractive? And I would guess, I never know, but I would guess that if you were to go on a first date with a Taurus Sun person, I think they would analyze your appearance quite heavily and factor that into their decision making when they come to think of, do I want a second date with this person or not, or do I want to, just keep them as friends or not speak to them again at all. they do, when they're making that decision at the end of the first date night, they kind of probably would factor your physical appearance quite heavily into that opinion when they're trying to reach a conclusion about that. They are quite selective too, so they don't let just anyone become, part of their close friend circle. 10, I have Libra. And again, I kind of touched on this already, but I think with Venus, it is kind of the planet of beauty and, harmony, but it's also about looks. I think Libra, again, is quite shallow. They can have this sort of, they judge you too much based on physical appearances and not who you actually are personality wise, more just how you look and your grooming presentation, which isn't, the be all and end all. I think it's more important to look at personality personally. Um, Libra is not so selective as Taurus, though. They would let most people be part of their friendship group, their friendship circle, but I think that's because they are more humanitarian than Taurus. They're a little bit less like they want to exclude people that they don't like. They want everyone to like them. Libra has quite a fragile ego as well because it's the sign where the sun is fallen, so they don't really have much self confidence at their core. So they do want everyone to kind of like them because they're secretly not actually that confident in themselves. And I think that's why they care so much about their own personal appearance too and spend a lot of time on it. Obviously, it's also just the fact they're ruled by Venus too that makes them like that. But yeah, so I think Libra, sorry, they can also judge based on external appearances quite heavily sometimes. Um, but they are quite fair as well. So even if they don't really like you because you look like not well presented in their opinion, they're still gonna be friends with you because they want to, maintain the peace and harmony because that's what the sign of Libra is all about, really. So next, ninth on the list is the Leo, and again, I think Leo can also be quite shallow, and they are quite judgy of other people based on your external appearance as well. I feel like, and I also feel like Leo has this major god complex where they think that they are better than any other sign or any other person in general, really, because they do think, because they're ruled by the sun, that everything revolves around them, and they're superficial because of that. Like Libra, but for an entirely different reason. Like Libra because they feel insecure secretly, Leo because they feel way too secure in themselves that they do think they're better than any other person. But the end result is that they're both quite judgy based on others' external appearance. Then both are also quite vain and focused on their own appearance, I feel like. But yeah, Leo can be quite judgmental. They're very generous. I said in the last video, I actually really, really like Leo as a sign. They're my second favourite on my list, but they can be quite judgy of other people. Next up is Capricorn, and as I said a bit ago, Earth element kind of is a recipe for being a bit more toward the judgmental end of the scale, I think, because again, they have this very clear perception of the world. They are wearing the opposite of rose-colored glasses, rose-tinted spectacles, whatever that saying is, where you're delusional and you think that everything is perfect when it's not. They are the opposite of that, the complete opposite of that as an earth sign. They have a very clear perception of exactly what is reality and what the real world is, and that can make them a bit judgy for that reason quite naturally, I think. Capricorn, they also, like Leo, do have quite a lot of pride and ego. It's less easily wounded and it's probably less obvious on the outside as well. But they also kind of have a god complex and think that they're better than everyone else too. Um, it's just in a more earthy, subtle way, their pride, but it is quite naturally, but it is still there, I would say. They don't judge so much based on personal appearance. I think they judge more on how successful you've been in your life because they place a lot of value on being professional, having a good job, earning a good income, and people who don't have those things in their life, especially if the Capricorn thinks by this stage in their life that they should have achieved those things and they haven't, the Capricorn will judge them or think they're lazy because, say, they haven't got a job by a certain age, or they don't earn enough money, or they don't work hard enough. That's kind of the area of life where Capricorn tends to judge other people. I don't think they're always consciously aware they're doing it, but they do tend to do it. Next up is actually Cancer, and generally speaking, water signs are the most compassionate and emotional and the best with people skills. So I would say, not necessarily social, they're definitely not so social, but they're definitely good with people skills. So I'd say they tend to be the least judgmental element. But Cancer actually is pretty judgmental. Like, they judge based on how intimate you seem to want to be with them in a relationship. It can just be a friendship too, not necessarily a romantic relationship is the only thing they'll do. They'll do it with just a friendship too, even if it's casual, like an acquaintance or something even. If you appear to be cold, detached, emotionally unavailable, they're already going to have their eye on you, and they're going to be kind of judging everything you say, because they're very self-protective as well. They're going to go into their little cancer shell and they're going to defend their feelings so that they don't get hurt emotionally. And then they're going to be very reserved and cold towards you for that reason, because it's self-preservation for them. So in that way, I think they can be judgmental. They are very compassionate once they get to know you, but they can initially, when they're first like sizing up a new person, they can be quite judgmental based on how affectionate the person seems to be toward them from their point of view on things, that from their perspective. Sagittarius is next, and the thing about Sagittarius, they're genuine, really good people, warm-hearted people, deep down in their core. The thing with the Sagittarius is that they are quite um strong about their belief system. They are they are the sign that represents the ninth house in astrology, which is all about personal beliefs. Religion comes into it, personal philosophies of life, and they care very strongly about their beliefs. They can preach as well quite a lot, which can actually be a bit annoying when it's overdone. But they can preach a lot, and I think because they preach a lot, they're also if you don't believe their beliefs, and you try and contradict what they're believing, even in a nice way, they actually take that as a personal insult, because they think if you don't believe their philosophy of life, that you can't be friends. So they tend to judge based on that, I think. But if you do agree, they're pretty much quite forgiving and non-judgmental on other areas of life when it comes to people, I think. Aries is next, and I think Aries basically judges because they have a really strong ego. Sun's exalted in their sign, and they are physical animals. Well, obviously not animals, but people, and they're competitive. I think they judge you based on your physical strength. Like, do you look weak? Do you look strong? Do you look like a good challenge to them? Because they like challenges, and if they think that you're a match for them in strength, especially physically, then they're going to try even harder to get stronger so that they can outdo you, sort of thing. So I think they'll look at you physically when they first meet you, and they're going to be like, um, are they a rival for me in terms of, do they look strong, like as strong as me, or are they worthy of my respect? If they're not hard workers, they're not going to really respect you too much. So I think Aries can be like that. Now we're getting toward the bottom of the list, so this is like the slightly less judgmental signs. Especially the last three are really non-judgmental at all, in my opinion. Like, they're all very non-judgmental, which is a really good thing. So next up, though, is Gemini, and I think that Geminis, because they are kind of a bit multi-personality in the nicest way possible, I say that, it means they can be, like, one side of them is really non-judgmental, really, like, they don't care, they just want to have fun, it doesn't matter who it's with, they are really open-minded, and they are like that the majority of the time, but then the other side of them is, like, quite um like analytical, similar to the Virgo, because of course they're also ruled by Mercury, the Gemini, the air side of Mercury. So they're also analytical, they filter everything through their logical mind as well. So that sort slightly more serious, grounded, cold side to the Gemini, which you don't see as often, but that side that they have that's more hidden, that can be quite judgmental, because similar to Virgo, they're filtering everything through their logical mind, their rational mind. They're not as critical as the Virgo, definitely not, but they can still have that sort of side to them, but they hide it very well. And normally they have this really typical Gemini side, which is overly talkative, sociable, want to have fun no matter what, and that side is quite non-judgmental, which is one good quality I can give Gemini. Are not particularly judgmental. Scorpio is third, and I would think that they are completely non-judgmental personally. They are only judgmental if you cross them and they get mad and then they want to seek revenge, because as I kind of touched on in the other video, they are pretty vengeful when you do cross them. They don't forgive and forget very easily. They can do, but it takes them a long time. And they are very, very mad. Like, they can hold grudges if you cross them. But if you don't, they're actually really friendly. And I don't think they really judge you. Like, they're the type of people who you could tell them you've done something terrible and they won't judge you. And in fact, they might even try and help you cover up what you did that was a terrible mistake as well. Like, say you, like, attacked someone and you felt really guilty about it, they wouldn't judge that you did it and think you're a bad person. They would probably help you to cover up the fact that it was you who did it. Um, so yeah, because they also have that connection through Pluto. They kind of have this understanding of the dark side of human nature and this understanding of life. So I don't think they judge if a person does act badly. They kind of just help them cover it up because they also can act badly too. So I don't think that they judge because it's also something that they could see themselves doing too sometimes. Aquarius is number two. And because they are detached, as I said in the other video, to people on an individual level, but they have this overall theme. They care a lot about humanity in general. And because of that, I think that ordinarily they could be friends with everyone. They make friends with everyone. It's very superficial level, but it is still a friendship in their eyes. And they kind of are, they would say that they're friends with pretty much everyone in the whole world because they are completely non judgmental. They're all about equality for the people. So, yeah, they really do not judge at all. And that's one thing I will say about Aquarius. I don't really like their sign overall, but I can definitely give them credit for being very non-judgmental. They are very inclusive of people from all ethnic backgrounds, all walks of life. It does not matter in the slightest to them. So they are good in that sense, really good actually. Very understanding too. They filter everything through their logical, rational mind, like Virgo and Gemini, but they do it in the least judgmental way out of those three signs, I would say. And they don't judge humans for being humans and doing things less than perfect because they know humans aren't perfect and that's just what they do. And then the least judgmental sign of the entire zodiac, number one on the list, is Pisces, my own sign. And I don't know, I just think that they genuinely are the least judgmental. They kind of love everyone. They don't really judge. In fact, they're so non-judgmental that they're a little bit naive sometimes because they can be manipulated pretty easily because they always expect the best of people, and they live by this life philosophy or this idea of life where everyone is worthy of love and everyone's innocent until proven guilty. That's kind of their mindset. So because of that, if they don't know that you've done anything bad in your life, they just assume that you're an amazing person just like them and they're going to treat you likewise. And even if they have proof that you're not the best person, they're still going to be very understanding, forgiving, and compassionate with you to the point where they can be quite naive and they're too giving and generous. But kind of touched on that in the last video. But overall, they have this ethos where they really do not judge at all. They do not discriminate in the slightest. So yeah, I mean, this video is a bit shorter than the last video, but I think that got out what I wanted to say about this specific topic within astrology. And yeah, it might have been a bit jumbled in terms of my thoughts, but hopefully you could have made some sense out of that. Of course, don't mean to offend anyone. This is kind of a scale where obviously all signs can have individuals of that sign that are highly judgmental and discriminate, and others that don't. It's just which side they lean more towards, generally speaking. It's not like set in stone, be all and end all. It's just kind of the natural inclinations of what they lean to, more one side or the other overall. Of course, there's always going to be individual variation within the signs, but that's just kind of my opinion as well. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.